This is the hard truth. Today's date is October the 13th. Okay, there's an awful lot happening at the moment, and I'm going to try and skirt through it and just give a general update and some thoughts along the way. Well, in the US, the Durham report is still happening behind the scenes. This all leads to, hopefully, the indictment of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, people like this. This is a matter of time. We've had the situation of most of the midterms being won by Republicans. It's a huge red wave over there at the moment. Tulsi Gabbard announced she was leaving the Democratic Party because, as she stated, it's run by an evil cabal, essentially intent on destroying everything. So there's an awful lot coming out into the media at the moment, an awful lot being suppressed as well. In Russia and Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine situation, we keep being told that the Ukraine's winning, and this couldn't be further from the truth. The Ukraine have practically lost all their weaponry, all their arms, soldiers, everything. All the Nazi battalions have been wiped out. Bridge was blown up on October the 10th, I believe, very key bridge. It's all over, essentially. But Zelensky will not negotiate a peace treaty because what does he care? He's got his big villa in Florida or Miami, wherever he's got it. And the aim is not to negotiate peace. The aim is to cause chaos and leave insurgents there. So, of course, it's dragging on an awful lot longer than it needs to. And if you think about this logically, whatever your viewpoint, if Russia wanted to absolutely cripple Ukraine, they could have done it in a day. They've got the firepower and the weaponry, and I keep saying this to people, to have wiped out the Ukraine in one day. The reason it's taken so long is they've been on special operations, taking out selected targets, bioweapons labs, nuclear facilities, missile sites, etc., etc. That's why it's taken so long, and they've been trying to do it without human casualty, without civilian casualty. But in essence, the operations are over. It's finished. It's just a case of now you've got terrorist acts continuing and being perpetrated, and weapons being sent via the back door to the few Ukrainian rebels that are left, funding them illegally, I might add. They're not a NATO country, and yet NATO territories like the UK and the US are sending weapons via the back door to the Ukrainians, which is perpetuating this conflict, and they need to stay out of it. In the UK, which I believe now is probably the last bastion of the deep state, and still incredibly dangerous over there, incredibly dangerous situation for the people over there. I think with the Queen's passing, the cork was taken out of the bottle, as it were. Charles, I can't see him remaining long. He's apparently got health problems. There's rumours that he won't be around long, and that William is being primed to succeed him. Now, my guess is that if William got in, then we would have a monarchy within the UK that was more sympathetic to the people. Let's just say that. Whether or not it would be out of the deep state reach completely, I don't know. But Trump made a very interesting statement at his rally in Arizona last weekend, talking about Boris Johnson, and that Boris changed. and you become more socialist. Now, whether Boris was changed or pressure was put on him, which is what I believe, or that was always his intent, I don't know. What we don't know is Liz Truss. What's the situation with her? Is she still deep state? I think she is. Or is she one of the good guys, one of the white hats? I don't think so, personally. I think Boris being changed, manipulated and forced to do things that he didn't want to do made him resign. But I think Boris was a good guy. I'm not saying he wound up a good guy, but I think he was initially. This Liz Truss, I don't think so. But we'll have to see. Certainly in the UK now, they're introducing fines for people that take children out of schools. So if you're a parent and you decide to take your child off for a day trip to Brighton, you're fined, right? This is an utter disgrace. The only people that should have ultimate authority over their children are the parents. Nobody else. Nobody else is entitled to tell you, unless, of course, there's clear evidence of abuse or something of that sort. But nobody else is entitled to tell you how to bring up your child, and whether or not you want to take your child out of school for a day. It's got nothing to do with anybody. We should have free will. We should have free will whether we send our kids to school or not. Maybe we don't want to. Maybe we don't want the propaganda fed to them. So that should be free will. That should be freedom of choice. If you want to send your kid to school, send them to school. If you don't, you don't. If you want to send your kid to the pictures, send them to the pictures. If you don't, you don't. You've got freedom of choice. And yet with schooling, you're told you must send your child to school. Why? What right have they got to meddle into the affairs and the freedoms and the freedom of choice of us, of the family? They haven't. And of course, they're trying to gain more and more ground. You know, children being forced to wear masks and things like this. Why? They've got a brilliant immune system. They don't need it. They don't need it. Herd immunity is the greatest thing. We've done it with children for as long as I can remember, for 50, 60 years. If you had measles, you would put them with a load of other kids that had measles. That was the whole point. To catch it, develop an immunity, and that was it. We weren't all walking around in masks because of a mild flu. This is just nonsense. And everybody needs to stop complying. Do not comply. If you're taking your children to a school who have a rule that you will be fined if you take your child out of school for one day, homeschool them. Do something else. Put them somewhere else. Parents, teachers associations all rise up. Say, no, we're taking all our kids out of school then. Arrest us all. What are you going to arrest us for? Not sending our child to school. People have to stand up. You know, this has gone on too long. Everybody's got too soft, too compliant, too malleable. And because of this, 95% of this crap that's happening in the world now is happening because people let it happen. The fools out there believe everything they're told. There's still people now that religiously turn on the BBC News and listen to it. Why? It's a propaganda channel. There's no independent news there. There's no, two sides of the coin. Well, the official government spokesman says this. Professor so-and-so says that. We're not given choices. This is brainwashing, the highest extent. And when you realise, when you go back in history, everything we've been told, every single thing, for the last 50, 60 years that I can remember, has been a lie or ambiguous to the truth. Everything. You know, they allow the nation to have football and cigarettes and beer. They don't care, let them fight. There's no crime prevention. There's no police going in, stopping the fight before it happens. They let them fight. They just put cameras on the high street, let them all bash each other up, and then go in and pick up the pieces. There's no intent to prevent crime. This crime's been allowed to happen. The minute they left pubs and bars open all day, they opened the floodgates. The minute they made it more profitable for somebody to sit at home than go to work, they allowed that person to go drinking all day. So this is all being created, all of it. Then what do? You defund the police. You hire less and less police. So what happens? The situation gets worse and worse and worse. So you're feeding people drugs, stopping them from going to work or making it not profitable for them to go to work, allowing them to take drugs, and then going out and causing trouble. And then there's no police to stop them. Then what will happen? The rest of the people will complain. And they'll put curfews into place, which has already happened in a lot of cities in the UK. So then nobody can go out at night. So then you're all prisoners. You know, what is a prison? If somebody goes to prison in the UK, they go into prison, they're given all their clothes, all their food, somewhere to sleep, everything's done for them, they get an exercise an hour a day, and that's it. So what happens in normal society? It's exactly the same. The only difference is you have to buy your own clothes with the money you've earned by going to work. You have to provide your own shelter, your own bedding, etc., etc. Unless, of course, you don't want to work for some reason and you play the system, and then it's all paid for. Social Security pay it all for you. So it's all paid for. So you've got even more time to drink and go out and cause havoc. And this is what's happening. Society has been disintegrated. The structure has been disintegrated to allow chaos. Because with chaos, there's an ability to control, to step in. The people will ask for it themselves. We can't have this. We can't have people being knifed on the streets by an illegal alien that shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. So they create the problem, which causes concern amongst the public, and the public ask them, the problem creators, help us, give us a solution. What was the coronavirus period? An experiment. An experiment in social behaviour control. That's all it was. An experiment. Using fear, techniques and propaganda and pitting people against each other. A very cleverly orchestrated fear experiment to decimate the world in a unified fashion over a specific period by actually using something very, very mild. But people were so terrified, they believed it wasn't. My advice to anybody at the moment living in the UK in these current times, if you've got any money, get out. Don't stay there, because this is not a good place to be at the moment. Maybe in 5 years' time, if it's all sorted out, resolved, fair enough. But it's not the UK now anyway. It's a conglomeration of different nationalities. And the UK as we knew it 40, 50 years ago is long, long gone. Long, long gone. The glory days from the 1950s to the 1970s have gone. It's not the UK we knew anymore. So if you've got any money, go somewhere else, anywhere else. But don't stay in the UK waiting for it to happen, because it could get really bad over there. And, you know, I've always said that during the Second World War, when the Jews were loaded on the trains and were hurtling through the villages of Poland, Polish villagers were coming out and saying, get off the trains. You know, you're going to be killed. And the Jews were on the trains waving at them because they were so convinced. And they had been convinced by the propaganda. No, they wouldn't do that to us. Well, they would, and they have, and they will again. And it's even worse this time, because it's a more concerted, coordinated mob. Think of it like this: the Nazis are running the world. That's really what it is. The bad guys, the Nazis, are running the world. And all the countries are just divisions of the one company. And that's how you have to think of it now. Some companies, some countries are being turned, flipped, back away from the dark side. Italy is one recently. The new female Prime Minister in Italy, who is totally anti-globalist, deep state agenda. But there are certain, as I say, there are certain places now that are still very, very tenuous. The UK is probably the worst in the world as I speak. And that's what I would say. Get out of there. Don't sit there and wait for it to get worse. Don't allow yourself to be more and more and more controlled. Fined for this, paying for that, taxed for this. Get out of it. Leave them there with all the petri dish of immigrants that they let in. Leave them there with them. Go somewhere else. That would be my advice. So you have to use your intelligence to keep yourself safe. If it's not right, it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Don't acquiesce. Don't consent. You have to hold the ground and stand up for what you believe is right. And remember, when you watch BBC News or ITV News or anything, every single one of these politicians in the UK that we know of are all completely devoid of empathy. They are so far removed away from you and your life. They don't care about you. So don't listen to them. You know, you wouldn't go and listen to the devil telling you what to do. You know, the Nazis wrote the playbook on this. If you could control what people thought, you could control people. It was all about the propaganda machine. You know, give them someone to hate. The Nazis gave them the Jews. And this is it. You have to remember this. You have to remember this because it's key now. Otherwise you'll get caught. Now, the only person that I have listened to, and I've followed this quite intently over the last 45 years at least. I've always been very interested in the structure of something. And I knew from 30, 40 years ago, things were going wrong. I read a lot of books about it. David Icke, though they absolutely slaughtered him in the mainstream media, came out of a lot of good sense. Said some strange things as well, mind, but nevertheless, he came out of a lot of good sense. And a lot of the things that he said 25, 30 years ago have come true. He said there would be a virus unleashed. He said there could even be a phony alien invasion. Now, I don't put anything past these people. All of a sudden, we start getting official agreement and official acknowledgement of UFOs are real. After 50 years of everybody sniggering about them on the mainstream media, the mainstream news. Now, again, this is something interested, and this is all part of the puzzle that we need to decipher. In 1947, a huge task force was sent to the Antarctic under the command of Admiral Richard Byrd, supposedly on manoeuvres. But secret documents that have come out since, CIA documents, have said the task force was sent to wheedle out the Nazi bases, basically. The Nazis apparently had secret bases, or a secret base there. And this is why the task force was sent. Now, this task force, and I urge you read up about this, it's incredibly interesting, was basically pulled out of the manoeuvres early and retired from the excursion, as it were. So something very odd here with this situation. Admiral Byrd gave an interview on the way back. I think it was in some South American newspaper, and said that they were attacked and had to break off and they were attacked by a superior a civilization or individuals with superior technology. And he spoke about flying discs. By the time he got back to America, he's debriefed, he never spoke about it again. So, but apparently was found in his diaries. How true it is or not, we don't know. What we do know is there is a task force did go to the Antarctic for some reason. And we do know it came back early. That's what we do know. That's a fact. Now, if there was a fragment of top-level Nazis that after the war got away to a secret base, carried on working on technology, and don't forget the Nazis were working on flying saucers and all sorts of things. And after 1947, Antarctica was declared a no-go area. In other words, nobody can go there. Nobody. You're not allowed to fly over certain parts. Why? That could only happen if there was somebody there, or there was a group there that said, no, don't come anywhere near this. Stay away, this is ours. And the only reason that all the other countries of the world would quickly agree to do that is if it was a superior technology that was threatened. So again, draw your own conclusions, research, read up about it. It's very interesting. Just seems strange to me at the moment that we're getting all these UFO reports coming out again. And official US Navy reports that are being actually said to be legitimate by the US Navy themselves. Is this in preparation? Now, I'm not saying other civilizations have never visited the Earth. I believe they have. Are they doing it on a regular basis? I don't think so. So if you've got hundreds of thousands of people around the Earth every year saying they're spotting flying discs and stuff like that, they're not coming from outside of the Earth. They're coming from inside of the Earth. They're probably coming from secret bases, possibly in the Antarctic, possibly in deep lakes and under the sea, and who knows? That would explain things. They're not coming from another place. They're here. They're already here. Now, are they influencing circumstances? Are they keeping themselves separate? Are they like a colony? They just leave us alone. We don't want anything to do with anybody. Every now and again, we're going to have a little fly around. So it's one or t'other. Now, if the bad guys are in control, then it follows that if they've been allowed to be in control for such a long time, they might have help. And is this why the US military now are coming out and saying, oh, by the way, there are UFOs? Is this laying the ground So again, another very interesting scenario. Judy Byington's report as well. That's quite interesting. She's a good source of information. Probably the best out there at the moment, I would say, actually. And the majority of her information she assembles from various sources. So again, how legitimate those sources are or not, we don't know at this stage. Again, it's take the information with a piece of salt. Check it out. See if is it a piece of the puzzle that fits. If it does, put it in the jigsaw. If it doesn't, throw it away. But she's saying that within the next month, there's going to be a lot happen. A possible scare event. A possible false arrest of Trump, even. Nothing to worry about because it will be an orchestrated event. Probably down to the Mar-a-Lago documentation. So, and again, probably designed to wake a lot more people up and saying, my God, how could they do such a thing, you know? So, but she's certainly saying that's a possibility. Possibility of electronic broadcast system being activated, of blackouts. Now, they've said this for a long time, mind you. So, again, take this with a healthy pinch of salt. But certainly I see things are starting to ramp up a bit. So we'll have to watch and see. But the next month, they reckon is a lot's going to happen. Now, could there be a scare event? Could there be a threat of nuclear war? We've already had a situation where, with the Ukraine-Russia situation, Trump has offered to go in and negotiate a peace deal. Will he step in and he negotiates the peace deal and everything's happy and he's managed to do it, but Biden couldn't? Is all of this designed to show the ineptitude of Biden, but the superiority of Trump? Again, very interesting. So certainly a lot of interesting things happening. So we all need to keep our eyes open now, I think, in this time. Of course, if you're new to all this, you know, you're going to listen to this stuff and think, oh, this is just off the wall. And I wouldn't blame you. This is why I say you must check into this and research yourself. But something I would say is we know something's going on. We know there's an awful lot going on at the moment, negative for humanity. We've only got to hope there's something contrary to that, positive, that's trying to stop it. There's not been a huge amount of evidence that this is the case, but I point to the fact that the COVID situation abruptly stopped. And we know the World Health Organization, their plan was for 5 years of lockdowns. Because why? They were assuming the vaccine was going to take 5 years. That's what they wanted. And by then, everything would have been utterly destroyed. Everything would have been implemented under the stealth of the lockdowns. So this was stopped. So we can only conclude that the good forces behind the scenes stopped it. So what else is happening? What other good things have happened? When we look at the facts, well, certainly Ukrainian Azov Nazis are being removed and bioweapons facilities close to huge territories occupied by millions of people are being taken out, which is a good thing. There's apparently been an ongoing, apparently there was a huge underground tunnel system that's obviously was used by the deep state for trafficking and all sorts of things that's apparently been taken down. Again, this is just, at the moment, a theory. We don't know if this is true. Certainly with the allowance of the US borders to have no control, and the Democrats essentially allowing anybody to come in, has created a huge influx of illegal immigrants, a lot of whom are associated with child trafficking and members of cartels, etc. And they've estimated that there's probably 100,000 kids unaccounted for at the mercy of the cartels in the US as we speak. This obviously needs to be stopped. This needs to be stopped. And interestingly, some immigrants who came in recently were sent by Ron DeSantis of Florida straight to Martha's Vineyard, which is a very posh development where all the Nancy Pelosi and co live, and bussed straight to them and dumped on their doorstep, which I thought was hilarious. They've just done the same thing to Kamala Harris, the vice president, and dumped a load of immigrants on her doorstep. So essentially saying, right, you're going to let these people in, you haven't. But of course, this is just, again, for optics, to allow people to see. So, a lot happening. Keep your eyes peeled over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. I think there's going to be plenty happening. Over and out.